Hey folks, welcome back to this week's episode of Finance Fridays. I'm your host, Lucas Ballahood with Coldwell Banker RMR Real Estate and the Ballahood Group. I'm joined again by my good friend here with RBC, Alexandra Job. Alex, how are you doing today?
Good. Sorry I missed your last recording. So it's been a month since I've been on, but we're ready to touch base here and, um, you know, review what we do.
Well, I want to say, it was certainly a lonely week last week. I know you guys were sort of battling some illness there at home. There was a flu going around. It's weird. My kids have brought home a cold, so there's been some runny noses
Non
and stuff like that at our
Nonstop.
house lately. It is with young kids, right? It is what it
Mhm.
is. So glad to see that you've freed up some time to join me again today. But this
Yeah.
is a big recording today because coincidentally, this will be released on December 9th, but we're recording here on Wednesday, December 7th. Today, the
Right.
Bank of Canada is going to be making an announcement as to the latest rate increase. So we certainly want to
Right.
touch on some of our predictions there. The Toronto Real Estate Board and Durham Association of Realtors recently released the market stats for November as well, so we can touch on that a little bit. I think there's some positive signs in the housing market, but just want to start off here. What's going on at the bank?
So Bank of Canada today will make their announcement at 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, we're recording before 10, so we don't know what the exact rate increase will be. But my prediction would be 25 basis points. That's what we're hearing from the RBC economic experts. And but there is talk of 50 basis points. Last time, instead of it being a 1% hike, it was 50. So I'm going to stay on that optimistic side and say 25 basis points today. But we can update in the post at the time that we share this video to see where it lands. But of course, again, that changes all of our pricing offers. Will roll out, and I would expect that our fixed pricing would change soon after the prime goes up.
Yeah, I was gonna, predict anyways from my viewpoint, maybe a 50 base point again, because
Oh,
if they're really gonna try and hammer down on this
oh,
inflation, they're gonna try and just beat the, bejesus out of it, right? Try and
yeah.
really eliminate that.
I think I read this would be the seventh increase, consecutive increase in a
Yeah, me
row.
too.
So
It's
that's a
it's
lot.
Well, there's been a lot of shock out there in the market in terms of, these increased borrowing costs.
Yeah.
If your fixed pricing's gone up, that means we're qualifying at that prime rate plus two, for a lot of these folks, and that's going to be, we're qualifying at what, 8% or close to it,
Yeah. And
in some
so
cases.
it's the sticker shock doesn't come to just the people that are making a move, buying or switching their mortgage. It's the clients that are coming up for renewal in this period of
Yeah.
time. So that have rates, around 2%. And then you come into, now you don't have to requalify when you do a straight renewal. So that's great. But you come in and you look at your payment on the new contract. And if it's in the 5% range, your payment's dramatically changing. So cash flow, for our clients has changed, and we're trying to help them go, work through ways to help them financially. So whether that means we're, changing their amortization or looking at what we can consolidate to lighten the load there, we're looking at every which way we can to help clients with affordability.
Well, that's a positive note, though, with respect to not having to requalify again at the new rates.
At
Yeah.
renewal, right?
Yeah. So explain a little bit about what that would mean for a client that's, their mortgage is coming due and they've got to refinance.
So this is for an existing like client with RBC. If they're coming up for renewal and you're, with your existing lender and you're just looking to sign into a new term, then you can jump into that contract and just sign into the new term, because you're coming up for renewal. So essentially that mortgage is open. At RBC, we do early renewals 120 days prior to maturity dates. Now, if you're switching from the competition, we do have to look at qualifying our clients based on their income, credit, and the current qualifying rate. But sometimes clients need to make moves to, like I said, rejig things and just get it in better shape, their whole financial situation. But I have to say, in regards to our clients moving, switching, renovating, my biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is just hesitancy. I've been doing so many phone calls to connect with clients that, I haven't heard from in a while, or I just want to touch base. I had a client that I thought was selling their house. maybe wouldn't necessarily need a mortgage, but again, I just wanted to touch base with them. They decided in the summer, no, we're just going to hold off and see what happens. Spoke to another client. We're thinking about renovating and tapping into the equity, but we won't make that decision until next summer because we want to see what happens with the market, what happens with interest rates. Notice the client's address had changed, so they've moved from Oshawa to Ajax. I, assumed that their mortgage was somewhere else because it was no longer with RBC. However, they said they were renting. So I said, oh, well, if you're renting, maybe you'll be thinking about buying in the near future. And he said, yeah, we're not sure when yet. You know what I mean? Like so much hesitancy. We're gonna just stay here, rent, and wait and see. Wait and see, wait and see. That is like the common denominator right now for my clients that I'm speaking to.
Yeah, it's funny. Like interest rates have what tripled from where they were that last year this time. We've seen a lot of people are sort of in that wait and see mode. A lot of
Yeah.
buyers we're working with as well are in that wait and see mode. Sellers are at a point where their homes are selling around 100% of list price on
Okay.
average right now. So we're not
Okay.
seeing that under list
Right.
over ask activity as it used to, as we saw with
Well,
in the heat of the pandemic there.
yeah.
Um, so sellers' expectations have come back to earth a little bit, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we've got a lot more inventory that's sitting on the market. It's taking more
Okay.
like 3 weeks plus to sell than
Uh-huh.
when things were selling in about a week last year. Homes are, there's definitely some hesitancy out there in the market right now,
And
which
what's
is
the
to be expected,
price
I'd
trend?
say.
Like for pricing, how do we compare from we're looking at October and November numbers now. November number stats have come out. So what are we seeing for sort of an average price or the trend?
So the average price, interestingly enough, is held essentially on par. I think where were we at 893 this past month, and or 892, just about 893, and we were
Mm-hmm.
right around that number there in October. The number of sales was a little over, it was right around 600 last month. We're at 564 this month. Year over year, that's about a 44% drop or somewhere in that range.
Inactivity.
Year over year in terms of the number of sales. The
Right.
number of new listings that have hit the market is
Uh-huh.
is relatively on par as well year over year. We were a little over 1,000 last year. We're right around the same this year.
Okay.
So, inventory levels or in terms of what's coming on the market is consistent, but there's fewer buyers actively in
And
the
that's
market
the
right now.
hesitancy. I think that's
That's
the hesitancy. So that homes are sitting that they're available, the same amount of like the same volume is available that was last year, but you have less people in the pool
Mhm.
to buy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and we're getting closer to certainly more of a balanced market when you're talking about
Mhm.
inventory. This time last year we were, around 2 weeks of inventory. Now we're almost at 2 months of inventory. As you get to that 2 to 3 month of inventory range, there is when you start to see more of a balanced market. And anything, north of that is into a buyer's market. But with where things have been the last little while, you could argue that we definitely are in a buyer's market, and the fact that if
Mhm.
you are in the market right now, you're serious, you've got a, and you're pre-qualified or pre-approved, I should say,
Mhm.
whether you're looking at a primary residence, an investment property, or what have you, there's opportunity out there for you. There's much less
Mhm.
competition. But that hesitancy that we're seeing from buyers right now is certainly reflected in the activity out there in the market. But it's to be expected, I'd say, with sort of the shock and turnover that we've seen in the market in the last 12 months.
One thing to mention is there is going to be a 2-year freeze on our foreign buyers' ability to purchase real estate. So if they have a sale contract or a purchase contract in place before, I don't know the exact date, it might be just January 1st. I'd have to look it up. Then they're eligible to be purchasing, but that is going to kind of change things. If those people are new immigrants, foreign buyers can't purchase, sorry, foreign, yeah, the foreign buyers can't be purchasing our real estate, then yeah, that's gonna, make a change to our market as well, right?
Yeah, and now I'll touch on 2 points with that, Alex, is immigration is one thing. Canada is going to see 200,000 plus, new Canadians come to the country in 2023.
Mhm.
I think a total of 400,000 by end of 2024, which is going to create a, as has sort of been out there, a bit of a housing crisis.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And the government has taken steps to, create policies to try and address that shortfall in terms of housing supply.
Right.
Built this new bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act,
Hmm.
is trying to speed up the process to get building permits approved,
Permits.
zoning applications processed. So, we're seeing, developers go and buy up a lot of undeveloped green space here in
Uh,
Southern Ontario and sort of in anticipation that, those lands are going to need to be developed for residential purposes or even commercial purposes. We're seeing it a lot in Oshawa as well and Durham region overall.
mhm.
We're seeing a lot of that too. So they're trying to speed up the process to help homes get built faster. Supply chain issues and all that kind of stuff is a different story.
Mhm.
But at the policy level, the government's trying to accelerate the building process. And one of the other things that I found interesting from this new bill is the fact that they're going to actually permit additional intensification, so that's you can have more units in one lot, so in one property, for example. So if people were, house hacking, is
Yeah.
a popular term we've talked about before, is you
Hmm.
put an additional unit in your property, so you live in the upstairs and you have a tenant renting out the basement, for example.
Yes.
They're gonna permit 3 units on one property, so you could have 2 additional units in one property now. So I could see some potential issues there with, building code and things like that, depending on the property.
Hmm.
But that is a positive sign towards trying to address supply. They
Supply
know
issues.
the infill market, so that's like an existing home and an existing property that's, sort of in the resale kind of thing where people, might tear a property down, build something new. They might allow you to sever off if you've got a big lot, allow you to sever part of that property and build an additional, let's say it's a semi-detached property or
Yeah.
a duplex. They might allow that kind of stuff, and hopefully
Mhm.
changes to this policy or this bill will accelerate the approvals of those applications
So
and
with
get that
less,
get that work moving faster, right? So someone
right,
can get into that property living there
with
faster.
less red tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's certainly steps being taken to try and address it. It's a little bit late. We knew this was coming. We could see it from a million miles away. And it's only been approved recently. But then again, government can only do so much. Certainly, as you talk about with what they're doing today with the Bank of Canada, it's a lagging indicator of what they're trying to do towards uh, eliminating inflation or controlling
Inflation.
inflation and bringing pricing down.
So
You
there
know,
is
the
talk that this could be the peak, the end of the raising pain. So, and that maybe pricing we will let it level out from here, and then maybe our pricing can come back down in a little bit. So, I mean, the expectation is by the end of 2023, but we'll see what, our spring market brings in
Yeah,
regards to pricing.
yeah, it's funny. Like we've seen fewer buyers in the market. The ones that have recently purchased here in November may have been pre-approved from, the summertime or September,
Uh-huh. Right.
right? So this increase today and the one, any future increases,
Yeah.
that's not going to hit the market in terms of the average price for a couple
So
more
later.
months.
Right.
So even though we very marginal change month over month from October to November this year, we're probably going to see some further downward pressure on pricing as time goes
Mhm.
on. We're
Mhm.
into December now. A lot of folks are probably going to be taking some time off from their home search just because of the nature of the
For the
time of year
holidays.
we're in. It's the holidays. So,
Mhm.
we're probably going to see a little bit of that happening. There are going to be sellers that are, need to have a deal in place, right now. So they're still going to be looking to have a property sold, and that could present an opportunity for some buyers. But that's likely where we're going to head. So it's probably going to be a slower December. Things
Right.
will probably, we could see a price jump because there's less activity. So we're talking about averages here.
Yeah.
But I would still expect that, into the early 2023, that prices are still going to keep coming down, even though we've seen a bit of a hold here, in the last month. But That's my 2 cents on it. We'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Obviously, I certainly like the optimistic view that you have around rates. This is maybe the bottom. Probably not, but we're getting close. I think we're starting to get closer to where we should hit this
This is
valley of the
heavy.
market here and then start to come back up and hold and come back up. So there'll be some recovery happening here in early springtime into the summer. But if people are thinking of selling and getting ahead of that spring market, they're going to want to start preparing for that because January,
Now,
February is going to be here in the blink of an eye. So
yes,
that's definitely something that people want to prepare for and get ready for the spring market. Is inventory, does is sitting on the market. It's if there's not as much new stuff coming out, then there's going to be some inventory shortages, let's say, where the supply uh, tightens up, the demand will increase or demand will increase as a result, prices should go up. So we'll see what happens.
we'll see
But
what
it's an
happens.
interesting time right now. So,
Well, thanks for having me, Luke. And
well,
we'll
thank you for
we'll
joining us.
post where, your prediction, my prediction, who's the winner.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I guess we're gonna have to wager a coffee on that one, see who's buying. But Alex, yeah, thanks for joining me today. It's good to have you back, and we look forward to seeing what's gonna happen with the Bank of Canada and what the December holds ahead of us here. And I hope you do have a wonderful holiday season, you and your family, and hopefully we'll get to chat at least one more time before the end of the year here,
Will do.
and then we get ready to party on New Year's and go from there.
Sounds good, Luke.
All right. Well, folks, thanks so much for joining us today. Alex and I, you'll find our contact information at the end of this video here. Feel free to like and subscribe and all those good things on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you around soon. Bye for now.